Hey there, in today's video I'm going to review the GoPro Hero 12 Black. I'm going to go through some of the changes made to the GoPro Hero 11 Black. Most of them are marginal, some of them are significant. I'm going to go through some of the new use cases that the Hero 12 Black affords. Finally, I'm going to try and see whether you should get one. I'm making this video because I have the GoPro 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so, I got the 12. This video might be long, so the chapter markers down below so you can skip on through to the bits you might be interested in. Let's get going. I use a GoPro primarily to take shots of me running, shots like these. Two significant advantages for me with the latest GoPros are 5.3K video. Now, without going into all the different things, I export in 4K, which is what you're probably watching this on now, but I film in 5K. What that means is I have a bit of extra room outside the frame. So if I'm trying to concentrate on a shoe and I don't have the positioning quite right, it might be too far to the left. If I've got the 5K video, I can move the frame slightly so I can have the shoe centered in the frame. Likewise, with an 8x7 sensor, which is almost square, I can export in portrait format or I can export in landscape from the same clip at 4K quality. So that gives me significant advantages over, say, this Insta360 Go 2, which I film with, and also my iPhone 12 Pro Max. The GoPro Hero 12 Black has some incremental upgrades to the GoPro Hero 11 Black, and your priorities might vary to mine, but there were a couple of ones that were really important to me. I'm going to go through them in sort of the order probably in which they were most interesting to me. And I suppose the first thing, just like when the 11 came out, was a slight sense of disappointment. I'd hoped for a newer frame rate. I hoped that they would go to 5.3K at 240 frames per second. They didn't. And a larger sensor had been rumored. Now, I don't know, it was a pretty comprehensive set of data specs that came out. It looked like it was going to be the Hero 12 Black. Perhaps that's going to be a GoPro professional camera. Who knows? But for the moment, we've got the GoPro Hero 12 Black. Probably the biggest benefit of the GoPro Hero 12 is the increased battery life. It uses the same battery as the 11, the Enduro battery, but longer run times are promised. Nearly double depending on the frame rate. That will be a significant advantage to me. I'm hoping to film the New York Marathon, and that will mean carrying less batteries. Now, the Hero 11, they measured it plus and minus some airflow. If you've got airflow, you'll get longer battery life, heat management, etc. But essentially in the GoPro Hero 12 at 5.3K, 60 frames a second, you'll get 70 minutes of runtime. And with the GoPro Hero 11, you would have got half that, 35 minutes or 61 with airflow. When you go in 5.3K, 30 frames per second, which is probably a fairly standard filming scenario, you get 98 minutes out of the Hero 12, whereas you would have got 80 minutes out of the Hero 11. And then in 4K 120, you'll get 62 minutes versus 28 minutes and 54 if there was airflow for the GoPro Hero 11. So essentially, you get better battery life. Better battery life, you say. Fantastic, you say. What's the downside? Well, the downside is there's no GPS in the GoPro Hero 12. That seems to be, GPS takes up a significant amount of power, and simply removing that seems to be GoPro's way of increasing the battery life, because the cameras are very similar internally, same chipset and various things like that. So they've managed to increase the battery life substantially by reducing the GPS. Now, I would have preferred if they let the GPS in and had a toggle in and out so that you could use it if you wanted. Having said that, I've never once used the GPS function on any of my GoPros. One of the problems with GoPros is thermal management. They overheat and shut down This has happened to me numerous times out filming. GoPro say that in the Hero 12 at 5.3K 60 frames per second, you get 70 minutes of runtime before it shuts down. And in the Hero 11, you would have got 35 minutes before it shut down. Now that's all tested at 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 25 degrees centigrade, the wind speed of 0.6 meters per second. So the higher the wind, the more cooling comes through, and the lower the temperature, you'd get better. But essentially, at fairly typical conditions, you'll get double the performance and thermal management out of the new GoPro Hero 12. One of the biggest advantages of the new GoPro Hero 12 for me is Bluetooth audio. I can connect my earbuds to the GoPro, and then by talking here, the sound will go to the GoPro, meaning if the GoPro was far away, I could still talk here and it would be picked up naturally by the GoPro. Now, it will also record its internal soundtrack, so it'll get sounds from around there as well, and you can mix and match in post-production. So that is a significant advantage for me. It also means when I'm trying to run the New York Marathon, my plan was to try and narrate some of the scenes. It means I can have earbuds in, and then I can get the camera to start and stop by just talking to it, and then I can talk as I'm going along without having to fiddle around with separate microphones and all that kind of thing. So that looks to me to be a significant advantage. I went out and I tested last night and I came across a couple of problems. The first problem was I couldn't connect up the earbuds I was using. Spent ages. Then I had to read the fine print of the Bluetooth connections. So at the moment, and this may change, GoPro are only supporting Apple AirPods and AirPods Pro, Pixel Buds and Pixel Buds Pro, Samsung Galaxy Buds, Jabra Elite and Bose Quiet Comforts. And luckily enough, I had a pair of Bose Quiet Comfort 2s and they hooked up pretty easily. So that was the first problem. There's only a certain limited number of earbuds that at the moment GoPro are saying will pair. Perhaps other ones will. I couldn't get other ones to do it, but if you have one of those, it'll work. I'll play a clip now where I went out last night. It was very, very windy. It was really windy. And I was trying to make a piece to the camera with the camera pointing towards me. So from the microphone is taken from my earphones in, and then when I turn the camera, you'd have the same sound. Because sometimes when you turn the camera away, you just don't get the sound drops, and that happens often. So the idea of having the sound coming from my earphones meant that I should be able to move the camera all around the place, and it should look pretty good. As it turned out, the sound wasn't great. I'll play the clips here, and I'll play a clip with the GoPro in taking the sound from my ears and actually from the camera. And the sound from the camera was better, but suffered from more of the wind noise. So a few more tests required, but it was very windy. The first clip is the sound from the earbuds, and the second clip is from the GoPro. I'm testing my Bluetooth connection to the GoPro Hero 12 Black. I've got a pair of Bose QC earbuds, QC2 earbuds, Quik App 2 earbuds, and the sound is coming directly off that, and then the camera is also picking up some sound. So depending on which way the wind goes, what I'm hoping to do is run with something like this in New York. I'm testing these, and I'm testing various other things today, but so that when I turn the camera and face away, my audio doesn't drop, whereas if I wasn't using sound in my ears, it would drop. So that's what I'm at, one of the many things I'm testing today. I'm testing my Bluetooth connection to the GoPro Hero 12 Black. I've got a pair of Bose QC earbuds, QC2 earbuds, Quik App 2 earbuds, and the sound is coming directly off that, and then the camera is also picking up some sound. So depending on which way the wind goes, what I'm hoping to do is run with something like this in New York. I'm testing these, and I'm testing various other things today, but so that when I turn the camera and face away, my audio doesn't drop, whereas if I wasn't using sound in my ears, it would drop. So that's what I'm at, one of the many things I'm testing today. One of the benefits of the GoPro Hero 12 Black is there is a preview mode in the app on your, my case, an iPhone, also Android, which in the past, as soon as you started recording, the preview app would turn off. Now the preview app stays on. That's very handy when you're trying to frame things. So it won't be something hugely beneficial, but it's nice to have. One of the benefits introduced in the GoPro Hero 11 Black that was hugely beneficial for me was the 8:7 format. That allowed me so much flexibility in the things I wanted to do, but it was limited to certain functions within the GoPro Hero 11, and now that's been extended to time warp, time lapse, night lapse, and night effects. I don't use most of those. I've used time warp and time lapse, but they are extremely useful. In time warp and time lapse, again, it would allow me to put the GoPro on the hood of the car and frame a bit later on without having to worry too much about alignment. That is hugely beneficial for me. GoPros are known and used for their stability functions. They've upgraded Hypersmooth. They do this every year. Now it's Hypersmooth 6.0. There are minimal differences, but they do, how it works is it's got a large sensor, and you're in bobbling up and down, and it follows the thing because it's got enough of the sensor, and just essentially takes your letterbox running within the sensor and does that. What it does also is if it recognizes that there is very little amount of movement, then it uses more of the sensor. It does that automatically, and Hypersmooth 6.0 incrementally does a little bit more of that. Again, I doubt it's something that I will notice in actual use. HDR video has been introduced on the GoPro Hero 12 Black. There are now 3 types of video. There's standard, HDR or high dynamic range, and log. Standard is what we've all been using on GoPros for a long period of time, and I wasn't particularly looking for high dynamic range. I'm not sure how much it will do. Sometimes it can make images look very oversaturated, but it may help capture a little bit more detail, in particular when they're changing light conditions, maybe sunlight under trees, all that kind of stuff. So it's useful to have. You don't have to use it, and I'll probably do a few more tests in it, but it wasn't something that I'm particularly, it's not high on my list of things for the GoPro. GoPro have introduced log footage in the GoPro Hero 12 Black. I shoot most of these videos, this one here, on a Canon R5, and I shoot in Canon Log 3. Essentially, when the film comes out, I'll show this, I'll adjust it upstairs, but it comes out looking grayish, and then I add a LUT to it. We'll come to LUTs to it to make it back to what looks like acceptable footage. It allows me to capture greater dynamic range in post-production. It's an extra layer, but GoPro have introduced log footage. You have to be in 10-bit depth and high bitrate, so you have to go into the settings and change those. But it essentially allows you to color grade later on the footage. I don't color grade much of my footage. It takes a very long time, and for my kind of YouTube videos, not as important as it might be. But essentially, you then apply a LUT. A LUT stands for a lookup table. It's a kind of conversion way around of sort of saying, well, here is a color profile on these pixels and convert it to this. And there's lots of really useful LUTs. I think GoPro have only got 1 or 2 for the moment, but I imagine loads more will coming out. This is probably only something that would introduce or be interesting to a serious professional photographer, but it's something that I will play around with. Another really useful feature introduced mainly for professionals is Timecode Sync. Essentially, you can put 4 GoPro Hero 12s, I've already got 1, but you can put up to 4, and you can put them on the same time code. What that allows you to do is synchronize the footage more easily in post. I won't be doing that, that's not necessary for me, but for you, if you're interested in time code, it could be a really great advantage to have. The specifications, weight and sizing haven't changed significantly in this particular GoPro, the internals. It's the same size as the GoPro Hero 10 and the GoPro Hero 11, and it's the same weight as the GoPro Hero 11. So that's good news for accessories, particularly if you bought something like the GoPro Media Mod for the GoPro Hero 10 or 11. It will also work with the 12. In terms of sizing, it's 71.8 millimeters wide by 50.8 high by 33.6 deep. It weighs 154 grams or 5.43 ounces with the battery, and 121 grams, 4.27 ounces without the battery. In terms of design, the GoPro is pretty much the same as the last time. I mentioned that it's the same size, same weight. There's some blue speckled finish. There's no red on the shutter button. It wouldn't win any aesthetic awards, but it works. But there are a couple of changes that I'll go through on the GoPro Hero 12 Black. One of the big changes on the GoPro Hero 12 Black is the introduction of the tripod screw 1/4 on the bottom of the mount. Usually there's some feet that come out and you can attach them to various mounts. This is the GoPro 10 on this particular mount. But what this allows you to do is to tilt forwards and backwards. That won't be the case if you attach this to a tripod screw. I'll screw in the tripod here. But I'm a real fan of this because it allows me to pop it on a monopod very quickly. The previous ones, there's a lot of play this way and that way, and I did want to get things level. That's always something that I'm fussy about, but I didn't find that very good. And the way those feet interact with the GoPro Media Mod is probably one of the worst bits of design I've ever seen. You had to you'd have the thing attached to a mount, and then you had to unscrew the whole thing to open it up to slide the battery out. Very badly designed, and I think the introduction of this new 1/4 tripod screw is going to be great for people like me. GoPro have introduced a max lens mod 2 as an accessory. You can purchase it separately, and you basically take off the original lens of the GoPro and stick on the max lens mod, change a bit of the software, and it gives you a much wider field of view. Here it is here. I haven't used it yet. I haven't even unboxed it. I have the previous version. This new one will allow you to do 4K at 60 frames a second. That's a big deal changer for me. The previous one only did 2.7K, and every time you step down in quality, say from 4K to 2K, the footage looks less good, and if you have to zoom in at all, you just lose a lot of quality. So the fact that it goes to 4K is really advantageous for me. It has a much wider field of view. It goes from 156 degrees to 177 degrees, and that's really good. I should be able to capture, again, it'll be, it can look very fisheye like, and that will have advantages and disadvantages. But again, in post-production in Premiere Pro, which is what I use, I can change that and get a better angle. So do various things, and it'll do horizon lock in all modes. So that's not something I'll use all the time, but I'm very happy to see it introduced. GoPro have made some interesting changes when it comes to sustainability. There's less packaging. In the earlier versions of GoPros, used to come in a huge plastic case that was useless, to get thrown away. They then introduced a separate case that came with the GoPros. I think I had 3 of them, so it's been 11, 10, and possibly 9. But this is the case, a little zipped case. Actually very nice. This is the last one I got, and if I open it up, I've still got some pieces inside it, some USB-C cables, I have a lot of those, and some GoPro mounts and various things that I've never actually gotten around to using it. And this time, what they did was they abandoned that case and just comes in this recyclable package. So it's the same thing inside, but yeah, the drive towards sustainability is, yeah, very welcome. I mentioned GoPro's Quik App that I use on iOS, also available on Android. Allows you to do various things. It can, because it's a preview for the camera, you can turn on and turn off and change settings. You can edit some footage. I don't. I use Premiere Pro. And you can do various things, but actually GoPro have announced that the Quik App is coming to the Mac soon. That'll be welcome. That'll be really welcome, but what soon means, who knows. GoPro have changed the user interface yet again on the back of the phone. The touch screen, I was checking it earlier, is quite responsive, but it's now in 3 sections, previously in 2. So yeah, there's a whole new user interface to learn. This always happens just about when I've mastered the previous one, or nearly mastered them. But yeah, the changes are welcome. It's a much easier, better user interface, and it does look like it's moving towards a professional side to the interface and a prosumer side to the interface. In this clip, I just wanted to compare the footage and the sound that you can get out of the GoPro Hero 12 with that of my regular setup. So these are somewhat ideal conditions. There's no wind, and I'm controlling the lighting, and it's pretty reasonable level of light. The GoPro suffers under poor lighting conditions because it's got a small sensor size, which is why you do see all the images are usually on a sunny day with lots of light, and they're great. But in low light conditions, it's not so good. But I'm just using this to compare with I usually record a Canon R5, a Zoom F3 recorder, and a Daily microphone. And this is taking the internal microphone from the GoPro, and it's also using the GoPro 12 footage. There's a artificial light there. There's one behind my back, and there's natural light coming in through the window, and you can compare the footage. Let's talk about cost. I can never understand GoPro's pricing. So I'm going to talk about their subscription model. You can get a subscription model on a GoPro, and in the US, the UK, and the Euroland, it is $49.99 per year. But in the first year, it's only $29.99. I'll come to this. Now, in Australia, it's $69.99 Australian dollars, and in the first year, it's $34.99, and it renews annually. So let's see what it actually does. So the subscription costs $49.99 in most territories. So just call that $50. So it costs $50. And the first year is $25, it's half off, let's say. So $75 for that subscription. But once you do that, you get $100 off your next GoPro. So I always struggle with the logic, but essentially I get my GoPros using the subscription model. Now the subscription model allows you to do all sorts of stuff, none of which I use. You can store stuff in the cloud. It'll edit footage for you. I might give that a go someday if there was much interest. and it'll do various things, but largely I use the subscription. You also get discounts off mounts and various things, but essentially every time a new camera comes out, if you've got the GoPro subscription, you get $100 off. So I'm going to give the costs in each of the territories with or without the subscription. So with the subscription first, in the US it's $299.99 or without, $399.99. In the Euroland it's €349.99 or $449.99 without a subscription. And in the UK, $299.99 or $399.99. And in Australia, it's $499.95 or $649.95. Very confusing pricing for me. There are always deals on GoPros in Black Fridays and those sort of regular sales that come out through the year. So yeah, it could be well worth holding off for one of those. In terms of use cases, most people use the GoPro for action scenarios, but it can be a very high quality, easy to use camera that's easy to take on, particularly with the new quarter 20 mount. I find this really beneficial for easy photography around the place. Very easy to get an angle on it. In the past, sometimes when I'm trying to do things, it's a lot easier to hold an iPhone. But yeah, with the quarter 20, this is an advantage for me. I wish there was applications to turn it in for security cameras and also for in-car footage, particularly for a dash cam, particularly as I have a variety of them going back a while now. But yeah, that would be something I would like to see. For me, there are two particular use cases or advantages in the GoPro 12. One is I want to run the New York Marathon. I do want to do a lot of filming, so the extra battery life is really superb for me. The earphones is something I'm really interested in. I haven't got the sound quite right. It sounds very tinny. Maybe some checking around posts, but that would allow me to just run and instead of stopping and having to fiddle, just say GoPro turn on, turn off, and be able to get various scenes with still the sound without having to worry about an external microphone. So all of that is still to play for. But yeah, those are the use cases and significant new use cases for me. Should you buy the GoPro Hero 12 Black? Well, if you're looking for an action camera, it's really well worth considering. The 5.3K and the 8x7 sensor mean it's really the one for me. None of the others would come close. Should you upgrade from a GoPro Hero Black 10? Well, yeah, if you're looking for the 8x7 sensor, it's worth upgrading. If you're thinking about upgrading from the GoPro Hero 11, well, that just depends. I mean, if your use case matches mine and the increased battery life and the Bluetooth headphones connections are worth it to you, then it's really worth upgrading. But if they don't, if those two things are not what you're interested in, I'd say no. The other increases are marginal. And certainly if you need GPS, no, because there is no GPS in it. And if you don't need those things, then if it was me, I'd wait till Black Friday and get myself a GoPro Hero 11 Black. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did, it would be great if you hit the like button. As always, there'll be lots of stuff in the description below, and I'll happily answer any questions you put into the comments. There'll be a big blue subscribe button popping up there. That's ready videos there. Thanks for watching. Until the next video, just keep running along.